Well, no, I've been cutting back. I have not been drinking too much coffee. Okay, so we will be starting here shortly. We're going to wait for a few minutes, making sure everybody gets in. Thank you, Sarah, for following. Thank you, Dia, for the bits earlier. And if you guys are curious about why we're talking about cursed objects in chat, it's because we actually play Dungeons and Dragons together. So it's not like we're talking about anything different. 아, JC. JC 씨, 왜 그래요? 왜 그거 시켜? 이제 그만. So like I said, we're going to give people a few minutes here to kind of get in, take a look at what we're looking at. And yeah, today we got a pretty good one. I think this is a very important one that we should probably talk about anyway. So it's good to know. Birdie, you reminded me I need to get some water. So I'm going to go grab some water here. And everybody else, you guys should grab some water, grab some coffee, some tea. Um, whatever is around you, make sure you stay hydrated. I will be right back. All right, I'm back. Had to take the dog outside a little bit. I'm taking the hydrate. Thank you again, Birdie. And I can see everybody's still talking about all these different items. Okay. So today, I've decided I think it's a good idea to kind of go over numbers. Numbers in Korean is it's a very tricky thing. It's very hard because there are two different styles of numbers that are used. We have the native Korean and the Chinese Sino. Now, personally, I think the Chinese Sino is a lot easier just because it's much simpler to use and it's pretty much usable anywhere. But the native Korean numbers are the basic numbers you learn like right away. And if you wanted to learn to tell time, you have to use both, which makes it confusing. But the hours uses the native Korean up to 12, and then the minutes is the Chinese Sino. And actually, I want to write that down as well. So, okay. Hours and time. And then this one is the minutes. So, for the most part as well, we can actually make it so that other than time, age, you can still use the Chinese Sino, but generally up to about 1929-ish, like from 19 to 29, you can use the native Korean, but for the most part, too, it goes back to the Chinese Sino just because of the ease. It's harder to pronounce and remember all the other numbers, and most children don't know how to count past like maybe 49 in the native Korean because, again, the Chinese Sino is much simpler. So, and yeah, we don't need the spaces. Okay. When we look at the Chinese Sino, again, because it's easier, we're going to cover these first. We've got one, which is il. And we can think of it as like il. It's like a shorter version, almost just like il. Two, we've got i. Then we've got sam, sa, o. Then we've got 육, 칠, and then 팔. So just 1 through 8, we've got 일, 이, 삼, 사, 오, 육, 칠, 팔. So again, that's 일, number 1, 이, number 2, 삼, 3, 사, 4, 오, 5, 육, 칠. I'm sorry, 육 is 6, 칠, 7, 8, 8. So number 9, we've got 구, and then 십, which kind of is like ship, but it's like sheep. It's kind of I almost want to say it like this, sheep. So up to here, 구 and 십, 9, 10. 일, 이, 삼, 사, 오, 육, 칠, 팔, 구, 십. 1 through 10 is very easy. If we wanted to do any number in between 10 to like 19, it's actually easy as well because it repeats. We just go 11. So 11. Oh, hold on. I think I hear somebody sounding like they're fighting. That's right. So Pac-Man 2, 1, 5, 2, 4. But when you write the numbers, it would just be like Pac-Man 21524. But hold on, I will be right back real quick. I know I turned the TV off, so I hear something. Give me 1 second. Maybe the neighbors trying to fight each other. Anyways, so if you're trying to like write it out or tell somebody what it is, Pac-Man, you can actually say it like that. It's like Pac-Man 2, 1, 5, 2, 4. And they will write it down as like Pac-Man 21524. So again, we've got 11, 11. Then we've got 12 for 12. We got 13, 13. I probably could, Jimmy, but it's like 2 a.m. It'd probably kill everybody and then kill me. 14, 14. 15 is 15. And again, it just continues. 16, 17, 18. Now, I do have to make a note, and I probably should have made this note earlier. There is one thing we do have to be very careful of. Let's do it like this. Usually when we get to 16, even though it is still 16, the pronunciation actually kind of changes here. Well, they're not really strangers from hell. I think sometimes it's kind of like Korean drama stuff. It could be from next door. It could also be from the restaurants outside, even though they're supposed to be closed already. A lot of smokers like to hang out kind of where we park our cars. And a lot of times since Saturday night, they're drunk. They're probably loud. But here, we actually changed the sound to be more like 16. And the reason why is because if we keep pronouncing it like 16, 17, 18, 19, the actual sound has to change. So 16, even though it's spelled the same, 16, it's 16. And then we've got 17, which again is that 17, but it's more like a, oh, actually, this one's still 17. 18, this is the one we have to be very careful on. It's 18, but the way it's pronounced again is the 18. And the reason why is if there is the P sound, it is a curse word. So does the word sino mean anything in particular? It's just a name for it. Yeah, the sino is originally derived from the Chinese. That's why we call it like the Chinese sino. Because Korean, if you learn more about the language, it actually does show a lot more about the relation between Chinese and Korean. Like you'll still see lots of Chinese words in a lot of what is it? A lot of restaurants, which is like the soja, 대자. So is like small size, 대자 is the big size. So there's that. So again, we have to be careful for 18. We do not want to say 18, which again, if you see Koreans texting, or like if you play games with the Koreans, you might see them actually text out like this, 18, 18, 18, 18. And the reason why is because it sounds like shibar, which I believe Pac-Man remembers what it is, but Shibar pretty much means fuck. So if you play a game with Koreans and you see them type this out, they're super pissed off and angry. So just be warned. And then again, we've got 십구, which again, we hear it again. So 16, and it's because that iung, and then 18, 18, yeah, 18, 18, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It is more like 18. You know I don't send that to you, Jimmy. 18. It's okay, it's fine, but again, pronunciation, yeah. 19, which again, we've got that 19 for 19. Now, for 20, it's just the 20. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I changed it because it's actually not like 18, but it is 10, but it's very soft P. That's why if we keep it this way, 17, 18 is fine, but we don't want to say like 18. Like, don't make it like a strong P at this one. Hard B, yeah. So if it's the hard P up, then it's like the P, really kind of strong. 18. People kind of get angry at that, but 18 is like a softer one, is fine. Yes, 16 still has the M sound. That is actually the only one that I can really think of that does change the actual sound. Again, 18, we do have to be careful, but 16 does change. And again, if you wanted to go to 21, it follows the same order as like 11 to 19. Just 22, yeah. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Now, again, when it comes to the 26, 26, it's like 26. We have kind of that M sound. 27, 28, 29. And then it goes from E to Sam. So 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. It continues on. And again, it goes the same thing for 50, 60, 70, all the way down. Oh. So here we've got 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then we go into the bigger numbers. So again, we've got that 30, 40, and actually it's not ship, but ship, 50, 60, yeah, 70, 80, 90, and then the hard ones now for peck. So you'd be very tempted to say bag, but it's like peck. If you guys know the game Tekken, in Tekken, one of the fighters' teachers is like Pektusan, and Pek, it actually means 100, but there is a mountain range here in Korea called Pektusan. 백현, yes, like 백현. So in essence, if you take the hyun out, 백 is exactly what you're looking for. So 백 is 100. 1,000 we have is 천. 5,000 would just be 오천. And again, it's like 삼천 would be 3,000, 사천, 4,000. And you'll hear that a lot with the money. Here, 만. 10,000 is 만. Then we have 만 오천 won, which is 15,000. 만 오천. Oh, and I said one. I didn't mean to say one, but usually you hear these numbers with money. Then we've got the 백만. Oh, no, not in Korean. 백, no. 백만. Then we got 천만. Then we have 억, which is like 억. And then we've got the 백억. So the reason why the numbers get easier as we get Dandelion Daydream, thank you for following. Welcome to the stream as well. So the reason why the numbers in the Chinese Sino are so much easier is because when we get to the higher numbers, pretty much at 30 and on, people just start using this. Even at like 20s, like if you ask your age, like 몇 살이에요? We still use like 저는 34살이에요. We can still use it instead of being the harsher version where you have to think like, oh, 서른 and what's after 서른, and you have like 스물 is 20, 서른 is 30, 마흔 is 40, and it goes on. It's a lot harder. So in general, these are the numbers that use more. Okay, so in Korean, numbers are essentially basic algebraic expressions like, let's see. Yeah, exactly. So if we wanted to say something like, let's see. Let's just say like 1, 5. Okay. In essence, this number, we would start off with the 10,000 spot. So it would be 만, and then we see the next one, the thousands. So it'd be 오천, 만 오천, and then we go to the hundreds, which is the 구백, and then 칠십. So 만 오천 구백 칠십. And if we put it like this, like we still understand. PowerPoint's telling me I need to put a space here and here and here, but honestly, if you have it all together, people still know what it's being said. So I would say the spaces would be good if you want to tell more like the actual numbers, like 10,000, thousands, hundreds, and then the tens. It makes it a lot easier to read, and you won't get confused. You're not going to think like, what does that mean? 만 오천 구백 칠십. What kind of word is that? You're not going to think in that way. So again, a lot of times when you're out shopping and stuff like that, this is the style that you'll hear it a lot. You know, it's like, 얼마예요? How much is it? 15,000원이요. It's 15,000 won. Okay, cool. Easy. Yeah, so not 일만. Because the 만 itself actually is 10,000. So if we were to go like this, just, 1,000, 10,000, it's just 만. Now, if we were to change it to 20,000, then it changes to the 이만. Because 일 is already kind of implied with the 10,000. Okay. Now for the hardest part. I hope you guys are ready. Well, actually, before we move on, do you guys have any other questions about the Sino numbers? So this is usually mostly used for money It can be used for counting. It can be used for your age. It can be used for the uh was it for minutes. Decimals. Now, decimals aren't actually really used in Korea. So in Korea, we like when we look at the money and stuff, decimals aren't really used. When it's in math, they don't really say the number, but you could say, like, if I get in here, 20.15, right? So this would be 20 점, and we would actually say like 점, then 15. 20.15. Ooh, Nikki Karen, thank you for the 1,000 bits. I very much appreciate it. I'm glad you figured that out. So if we use the dot or the period for the decimal space, it's like 20.15. So the 점 is always that dot or the point. Generally, it's not used with actually speaking. So how would you say, how old are you? Okay. We've got, how old are you? So we've got 몇 살이에요? So 몇 살이에요? And again, that comes out to like 몇 살이에요? 몇 살이에요? 몇 살이에요? So 몇 살이에요? And when we answer this, we can actually just go into like the numbers, right? We can just say like 24살이에요. So there is a more formal way, but in all honesty, people don't use it as much as this one. This is the most common way that you'll hear it. So if we were to look at the more formal way, which again is more harder, 나이 어떻게 되세요? So this is the more formal way. 나이 어떻게 되세요? But again, this is a very old style. So in this old style, we can still use it. So again, that's like the 나이. Yeah. 나이 어떻게, and it's like a 예. 되세요. Because 나이 again becomes into age. People actually don't use the honorific way as much. Again, it's like 나이 어떻게 되십니까? And again, it's not really used. So when you would use the formal one? Well, here's the thing is, this one and this one, they're both formal. We have the 이에요 and 요. They're both formal, but the more commonly heard one, the more one you'll hear is this one. The 몇 살이에요? 나이 어떻게 되세요? Is, again, it's much more older style. If you're going into like a business meeting, they might ask you this. Or like I'm sorry, not a business meeting, but a business interview, they might ask that. But again, they're going to look at your resume and they're probably going to use 몇 살이에요 a lot more. So did that clear everything up then? So when, I'm sorry, when would you use the formal one? So really, this one, again, if it's like a job interview, they have to ask, they might use it. But even like when I meet my students, their parents, every time they ask me stuff, it's always this one. 몇 살이에요? It's never 나이 어떻게 되세요? It's the 몇 살이에요? That's the one that is used more commonly. And again, like in dramas, you probably will never hear this because they don't want people to really talk about age in dramas. But in real life, Koreans are very nosy. They really want to know everything about you. So they will ask you, how old are you? Like, where are you from? Are you married? What's your blood type? What kind of people do you like? And all this, like, that goes that way. So do you use the Sino-Korean numbers once you get to 20? This one, too, is like a yes and no. And the reason why I say it's yes and no is we got to look at the actual native Korean numbers to really figure this out. So to answer your question, Sarah, what is my blood type? My blood type is A positive. So, okay, this is actually a good cultural point. In lots of Asian countries, they want to know your blood type because that kind of gives off what kind of personality you have. In general, A people are very positive. They're very they're go-getters. They do very well in everything. And then with their B blood type, they usually think it's very negative, kind of a bad person. Personally, I don't think it's true, but Koreans do. They actually have like many volumes of books written. A type of personality is this kind of person, and there's a whole book about it. B personality is this kind. Yes, it's very much like the zodiac signs. O type, I don't really know because it's like you've got A, B, which since it's like so rare, they're also like, oh, that one's very special. O type, it's not as common as A or B, but O type as well, I think is more, what was it? They aren't as good. They're more like neutral for everything. So it's a little different. I'm sure Dia's probably like a type B. If you lie, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Like even to foreigners, like I think I've only been asked it like maybe 4 to 10 times total since I've been here. But it's once I've been teaching them for so long, then they get comfortable, then they ask because for them, that's kind of their thing. Yeah. B is usually just a very negative person. There's actually a Korean movie. Let's see. I believe the name or the English name is like My Girlfriend is Type B. And they got My Boyfriend is Type B. No, was it My Boyfriend's Type B? Oh no, there was a girlfriend one. I can't remember. It might have been this one. So, nope, it was not that one. Oh, Two Faces of My Girlfriend. That's what it was. So, Two Faces of My Girlfriend is a Korean movie where the girlfriend actually has like a type B blood type, but also she gets drunk all the time. And when she gets drunk, she becomes more. If you lie, how would they even know? They won't. Yeah, only the hospital would need it. So, I mean, you can literally just tell people, I'm a type A, and they're like, oh, it doesn't really match you. Like, oh, I know, but I'm a type A. That's fine. Nobody really cares. But again, like, they actually have movies and dramas based on like the blood type, and it's pretty funny. Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of books actually like that, Eating for Your Blood Type or how to change your personality if you're type B or type A or whatever. So I want to say, like, for me personally, like, I know I'm type A. I'm a pretty positive person. I'm pretty active when I can get to it. My wife is a type B. So a lot of times when we fight, it's actually because I'm always like, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. We can do it. And she's always thinking, like, no, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's not going to be fixed. What can we? And it always changes in that way. So a lot of our fights is just like I'm always positive, she's always negative. That's just the end of it. So that happens a lot. What about Koreans who are doctors? Do they say that blood type affects personality? Not really. You can have the Asian doctors, like the Chinese medicine type of doctors. In Korea, we call them like the Hani one, which is just the like Oriental medicine. They will say so because they kind of believe it. And again, it's more of like a pseudoscience than anything. It's like we said earlier. It's like those who believe in their zodiac signs. It's very similar. It doesn't necessarily affect personality. Well, you never know. Your husband's type, if it's the same, you can also have a lot of fights because like you're always both very positive about everything. But again, it's I think it's also a cultural thing. So now we've got the native Korean numbers. And this is where we kind of go back to Sarah's question about like, do we still use up to 20 or whatever from there? And then for time as well. So we start off the basic, we've got hana, which is one. We've got 둘 is two. The set is three. Net is four. 다섯 is five. 여섯 is six. It's like 일곱, 곱 is seven. 여덟, 덜 is eight. 아홉 is nine. And then 열 is 10. So we've got the 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열. Hear this when taking photographs. That's right. You'll always hear like 하나, 둘, 셋, 착. That's usually how they'll do the pictures. You'll never hear them say like 1, 2, 3, 착. It just doesn't work that way. So again, we've got 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열. So up until 12 is really the most common ones that we use. So when we look at 11, we have 열하나 and then 열둘. And we use these the most when we're talking about time. Birdie. But anyways, we hear that the most when we talk about time. So again, 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열, 열하나, 열둘 is mostly with time. And there is a change for one of these. Actually, for two of them when we look at it, but we'll see that later. When we go to 13, we start the same. 열셋, 열넷, 열다섯. And again, when we go into 16, 17, 18, 19, it's just the same. 열다섯, 열여섯, 열일곱, 열여덟, 열아홉. And then for 20 is where it changes. We've got 스물. 스물. So 스물 is at 20. And this is where it gets hard because like Similar pronunciation is very hard where 20 is very easy. So a lot of times when we get to it, people think, how do I say I'm 20 years old? And we kind of go back to what we see here. Like instead of 34, if we said 20, we would actually use the 20살. But we don't need to. We can actually just say 20살이에요, and people would be just fine. They know what you're talking about. They understand it. So again, we've got 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열, 열하나, 열둘, 열셋, 열넷, 열다섯, and then if we wanted 16, we add 열여섯, 열일곱, 열여덟, 열아홉, and then 스물. And again, if we wanted to go 21, we just go 스물하나, 스물둘, 스물셋, 스물넷, 스물다섯, 스물여섯, 스물일곱, and so on and so on. So here's where it gets more challenging. When we go into the higher numbers, Isaac, thank you very much for the 100 biddies. I very much appreciate it. So when we go into the more difficult Korean numbers like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100, you see at 100, baek. 100 actually just goes back to here, baek, because they don't have numbers that go further than 99. So this is another case where they find it easier just using the Sino numbers because most people know them, and again, it's a lot easier. So if we look at 30, we have 서른, 서른. So like 서른, 서른. And again, like we said with 21, 31 is the same. 서른일, 서른하나, 서른둘, 서른셋. We follow in that way. For 40, we have 마흔. Not good, 마흔. 마흔. And again, we add 마흔하나, 마흔둘, 마흔셋, 마흔넷. And again, it's that pronunciation that becomes harder compared to 40, 41, 42, 43. Much easier. Then we've got 50, which is 신. 신. And it's more like a 신. But we don't hear the W. 신. So 신하나, 신둘, 신셋. Again, these numbers, if you look at the note here, for the most part, these numbers are used. No, I meant to say aren't used as much. Even when telling your age, it's mostly used for telling the hours and time, which is 1 through 12. 예순 for 60, which is 예순. 예순. 일흔. We've got 일흔. 여든. Again, 여 and then 든. 여든. 아흔. 아흔. 흔. 아흔. And then 백. So when we keep going down, 서른, 마흔, 쉰, 예순, 일흔, 여든, 아흔, 백. Even when I talk to like my parents-in-laws, they're like my father-in-law is about 77 years old. My mother-in-law right now is about like 69 years old, I believe now. And even with that, they don't use like 일흔다섯, 일흔여섯, 일흔일곱. They don't use it. They actually just say like 77살 because it's a lot easier. People don't really know the higher numbers for these past like 40. But again, most people just go back and then they use the Sino numbers because it's just so much easier. Even here, when we look at the Baek, again, Baek just goes back here. Now, we have to look at numbers in time. And actually, so when we look at time, if we look at it this way, 145. 145 changes. Instead of it being like 하나 and then 45, because we are talking about time, we've got hours, which is the 시, and then minutes, which is the 분. So in this case, we would want like 하나시 45분, but something still is wrong. 하나 actually changes to 한시. So 하나 changes to 한. So AM and PM, Pac-Man, yes, we do. So in general, and I'll add it here. AM would be like 아침, and then PM, we have two kind of different ones, right? But PM usually, no, I'm sorry, not 아침. It's the 오후, the 오전 is AM, and then 오후 is PM. Oh, come on. Yeah. 오전 is the morning, AM. 오후 is the PM. Okay. So in this case, we have just 1:45, which is the 1시 45분. Now we can say in the beginning, we can say like 오후 1시 45분. But generally people, again, they're looking outside or they see the sun, they know if it's going to be early morning or afternoon time. Because we also have, like here, we have what's called 새벽. It's correct. Oh, it might not be 새벽. Oh, it is. Wait a minute. Yeah. Yeah, it's no. It is 새벽. That's why it's just 새벽. Which is like early morning. So for my time right now, at the moment we're doing this, it is 2:47 a.m. I would say it is 새벽 2시 2시 47분. And it's not supposed to be spaced like that. Do not write it like this. We need the 시 next to it and like the 7분. Okay. And it's not like 2시. So you can see like the time when we use the actual like Korean, native Korean, it does change. Yes, it doesn't change for anything else, only for time. Exactly. If you use military time, it's different. So that is how time is usually written. Yeah, it's usually just written in numbers. So if you send a message to somebody, what time? The way they'll write it would be like like this. 7시 30분. They'll just write it like 7시 30분. Now, it's something to like in military time, a lot of Koreans actually do know military time, but we actually just kind of make the assumption. If somebody says 7:30 and we're thinking, "Oh, we're making dinner plans." Okay, it's going to be the nighttime. It's not going to be like morning time. We kind of make that assumption. And if we don't know, we'll be like, "Oh, 아침에?" Like 새벽? No, like no, okay. Exactly, Pac-Man. That is correct. So anytime we see the time, we always think the hour's time is using the native Korean numbers, and it does change. Oh, oh, oh. So the changes would be, like we said, one would be han, and it'd be like 한시. Then we have 두시. This is 세시, and it's still like 세시. Then we got 4, which is 네시. It's not. I guess we can do it that way. Okay. 3시, 4시, 5시, 6시, 6시, 7시, 8시, 9시, and again, 10시 is 11시, and then 12, 12시. Yes. So han. Now, when you're counting things, if you're talking about like people, like 한 명, 두 명, 세 명, for like counting actual things like that is fine. You can actually use the same change. But for the most part, it's kind of it's a really strange thing. There are some things that it changes in this style too. There are also some things that it doesn't change this style into. Like if you're just counting in general, like you're still going like 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 여섯. But if you're actually like telling somebody how many people at like a restaurant, for example, if they're asking, "Oh, how many people are in your party?" You could say like, "우리 세 명이요." We're 3. 우리 5명이요. Now, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열 kind of say the same. But 1, 2, 3, 4 change. 한 명, 두 명, 세 명, 네 명. They change. Same thing like 1시, 2시, 3시, 4시. Even though we can still see it and we can still think of it as like 셋시 and then 넷시. Even though it's not like a T sound anymore, it's still the S sound because it continues on. The spelling is still different. So that's why we see it as like 넷시 and then 셋시. 오후 1시 51분. Yes. Sarah, that is correct. And that's only if you say it. If you're going to write it out, you can still write it out this way. It's fine. But usually the 한 will just change to 1. 51 is 51. But it's correct. Are there any other questions? If not, then I think that's metal by numbers and go. it's it's not time to duel yet, Birdie. Not yet. That is still later. I believe Jimmy and everybody's at work for now. Well, even if you go over 10, like if it's over 10명, you could actually say, "Oh, Annalure, welcome." Now, it's actually in lesson 1. It's still in the VODs. So if you go to the videos on demand, you can still see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all there. But going for Nikki's question, Nikki's statement about never ask for a table for more than 10 people. If it's over 10 people, you can actually just go to the Sino numbers and just say like 우리 20명이요, and then they'll think, "Oh, it's 20 people. Got it." My DM is hard at work trying to get us all killed. He wants a TPK. Uh but yeah. Are there any other questions relating to the numbers here today? Careful, Pac-Man. He's changed it. He won't admit it, but he's changed it. Oh, so also was 9 plus 10. Okay. This is where if we actually go into math, in math, it's still the same, right? We still look at it, but okay. How do you add the ones place to Korean numbers like 25 instead of 20? Is it yes? So again, oh, no, not that. When we're looking at 20, we know it's 20, right? 20. 25, 25. Simple. We just add that number into it. If it's 27, it's just 27. Not 7. Nope, 7. 7. Okay, 27. Yeah, so when we look at it, if we were to say 9 plus 10, right? And if it's like this kind of question, we would actually say like 9, which is like 9 더하기 10은 in the native numbers, yeah. So 21. 20. And if we look at it, this one is like 25. Not 수, but 27. So it's the same way. So if we want the addition, addition, we would just say 더하기, which is like and more. If it's the subtraction, we say 빼기, which I think it's actually the 상 빼기. If it's the division, we call it 나누기. And then for multiplication, multiplication. Yeah, nope, of course. 빼기. No, not 빼기.
Wow.
Oh, now I can't remember. What was the multiplication? Oh no. Ah, 곱빼기. Oh no. No. Okay, give me a sec, guys. I have to try to remember this. 곱빼기. 곱하기. 곱하기. Yeah, that's what it was. 곱하기. Okay. Yes, thank you, G Bright. 곱하기. And actually, I think I spelled peggy wrong again now that I'm looking at it. Hold on. Nope, I had it right. Okay. Well, I don't really use math when I'm speaking Korean. It's like it just happens that way. There are some things that if you're not teaching it, you don't know it. Like when I first came to Korea teaching, I didn't know about like the dohagi, pegi, nanugi, 곱하기. But talking to students, like doing more stuff with them, it just kind of comes out. Now, I will say this too, that when we look at it, again, we just say the same thing, like 구, 빼기, 10은, and we just follow the same pattern. We just change this one. 구 나누기 10은 9 곱하기 10은, and we get it in that way. So fractions is the harder part because they kind of go the backwards way for fractions. Oh, no, not for that one. Go to the end. Okay. Well, again, we talked about the decimals earlier. If we want to go into the decimal, we just say 20점 15. But again, when it's written out, we don't really say it. So for the most part, if you're taking a math test, you're not going to tell the teacher 20점 15. It's just going to be written down. Now, when we talk about fractions like this, they actually go backwards. So we start with the 4 and then we go to the 3. So this would be like 4분의 4분의 3. So when we look at it as 4분의 3. Oh, G-Bright, thank you for the follow. I very much appreciate that. I thought I was right before. It was the 에. So 4분의 3 means 3/4. And again, when we look at it as 3/4, 4분의 3, it's very confusing because again, it's backwards. 4분 is 4 parts. So 에, of the 4 parts, 3. It's hard. And if we go into like percent, we can actually just say 프로. So if we wanted to say like 50%, it would just be 50%. And again, you'll see the 프로 a lot of times with like discounts. 30%, 30%. 50%, 50%. Again, fractions are too confusing in Korean. And you just use, again, go back to the Sino numbers, like 8분의 1, 1/8. It's just that confusing. Or at least for me. Maybe some of you guys can get it easier than I did, but I still have problems with fractions in Korean. So any other questions? So yes, bun in minutes is literally parts. So here too, we've got the 3 parts or 4 parts, 4분. And then when we look at the actual time, which here, we've got bun, which is minutes, but that changes because it's like individual parts. So that's why, yes, we can count it in that way. Any other questions? I guess not. Well, again, if you ever have any other questions, feel free to ask anytime. So do Koreans only use Korean age? No. But for the most part, if you ask a Korean in the US, they're going to give you their US age. But if you ask a Korean in Korea, they're going to give you their Korean age. And just remember, let's see, let's do this. So Korean age reason. There's a reason why they have their special Korean age. Not necessarily worldwide, because the way that they count their age is different than the US age, and the US is more like a worldwide age. So in Korea, and I believe it's also most Asian countries, when you are born, you are 1 year old. That is the basic ideology behind it. When you're born, you're 1 year old. Now, in Western cultures, when you are born, you are 0. Technically, you don't have an age like that. Japan, I think, might be a little different, but I do believe they still count their years differently. Like, I think China does the same way. Yeah, so Japan also has their traditional system, which they say it's your age plus 2 as for the period from the New Year's Day until the day before your birthday, I believe. And so it is very same. When you're born, you're 1 year old, and then you go on from there. And that's the traditional Japanese style. It is only 9 months, but they kind of consider it's long enough. So that's why they still count it in that way. Yep. And it's really strange, but that's just how they do it. And again, they run by the Lunar New Year instead of the solar calendar like we do. So the lunar calendar runs differently every year. The first, like the New Year day, is different every year, and that's why it's always changing. And that's why sometimes people are 1 year older, sometimes they're 2 years older. It just depends on when they were born. Uh, lunar calendar for. So let's see. For example, the year I was born, da, da, like I was born just a little bit after the first Lunar New Year. or not the first lunar, the first month of the new year. So that's why technically instead of being 34 like my US age, I'm actually like 36 Korean age because it was so close to the actual time for the Lunar New Year celebration that time. Yes. So in Korea specifically, when it's the Lunar New Year, they have the miyeokguk, which is pretty. Oh, actually, not miyeokguk. They have dokguk. Dokguk is the food you would eat so you gain a year, and they celebrate it, but it's not really like their birthday. Not our typical January 1st. No, they get technically they get a year older on Seolnar, which is the Lunar New Year, or you can think of it like the Chinese New Year. And again, that changes every year. It's never the same day. And that's why again, a lot of people they always ask like, "How old are you? When's this?" And do they celebrate? Yes. So they actually celebrate two different New Years. They do celebrate the Lunar New Year, and then they celebrate the actual like general New Year. So they do have actual birthdays, but birthdays are not as special as they are in like the Western culture. Like in America, we have big parties, we get cakes and stuff. In Korea, we don't do that kind of thing. Birthdays, again, like me and my wife, like I celebrate her birthday, she celebrates mine. Then once you get to like the big numbers, like once you get to 50, 60, 70, 80, like every 10 years you celebrate a birthday because it's like an accomplishment you've lived so long. So yeah, that's why they're every Lunar New Year they have tteokguk, which is like the rice cake soup, and then on their actual birthday they have miyeokguk, which is like a seaweed soup. For the most part, yeah. Even like a lot of the idols, they actually don't really celebrate their birthdays, but the fan groups purchase like big kind of posters that they post everywhere, and then they it's always like happy birthday, hope you have a great year from your fans or the fan group. So that's what they do there. So when an Asian person says their age, you should reduce it by one. I think it depends. If anything, to make it clearer, you should ask them what year they were born. So, do they say how old kids under two are by their months? No. So, if it's under two, it's just like, you're born at one. The second year, you're already two. Well, actually, technically, their first year is two. So, they don't count it by months. Any other questions? So, yes, technically, that's how they count is every Lunar New Year day, that's when they count their ages going up instead of their actual birthday. And yes, the Lunar New Year is different every year. It is never like, we think of the New Year day as like January 1st is always New Year's. But each year, the Lunar New Year changes. So, Lunar New Year, let's see, 2022. For next year, Lunar New Year is February 1st, where this past year, it was February 12th. Last year, 2020, was January 25th. In 2019, it was February 5th. It's generally between January and February. I believe there was actually, let's see, when was it? 2017? Nope. 16, 15? One of these years, 25. Let's try again. Oh yeah. So like in 2026, Lunar New Year is actually going to be on my day. How is it possible? Because they run by the lunar calendar. Lunar calendar is very different than the solar or like the Gregorian calendar we know today. It's just how they follow it. Yep. Lunar calendar, if you actually look up, just like type in Google like lunar calendar, you'll see that it is different. And again, lunar just means that it follows by the moon rotations, where solar is just by, or the Gregorian is just the typical what was made by the ancient Romans. Any other questions? Are all kids in one grade the same age? No. Some of them can be like 1 year older, some of them can be 1 year younger. It just depends on when they were born that year. Yep, Zodiac's different too every year. Because the Zodiac is also based off of the Chinese calendar, which is the Lunar New Year. Or the lunar calendar, I should say, not the Lunar New Year. Well, if there's no more questions, then I think we're going to call it for today. I want to say thank you for everybody for stopping by to watch. Uh, Again, you guys see there's the new bar or new goal. What do you want me? What do you want to see me do? We're gonna say once it gets to 50%, we'll have another Korean class, and when it gets to 100%, I might just try to take some poll and see what you guys want to see. I think a lot of people are actually still curious and interested in a lot of the Korean foods and stuff like that. So we may try to set up a mukbang. I may try to see if I can get other people. Maybe we'll do a Korean. Have somebody show us the Squid Game games and play a few. How big is the age gap in one grade? It's not that much bigger. Pac-Man says another in real life stream or mukbang would be awesome. Cool. So mukbang, it's another interesting thing because mukbang was made because people didn't want to eat alone. So they would watch somebody, usually it was like a younger girl or a prettier girl. They would watch them and eat at home while watching them. So it felt like they weren't eating alone. Uh, Norebang would be fun. Norebang is singing. So we can definitely do that again. I got to see if I can find a better place than before because that one they didn't have Wi-Fi, which was odd because like every place has Wi-Fi, but also it's in a basement, so it's kind of bad for that. Sing Jimmy's new song. Oh, but I don't think I played it on stream yet because we haven't played Dark Souls yet. When it comes out, okay. Well, Jimmy's got a lot of new gear, which is good. He's gonna have something fun. But yeah, uh, again, I'll take a poll, see what people think. I think mukbang seems to be kind of the bigger one, and if that's the case, then we're definitely gonna have some fun with that. I'm gonna try to make sure we get some good foods, and maybe I'll have some just Korean people join me as well. Some people I know. We'll take a look and see. But yeah, again, thank you everybody for watching. If you guys stick around, I think we're gonna go raid Echo Ram Echo, who's another fun streamer. Uh, it's been a while since I watched his stream too, but it's like 3:21 a.m. for me on Sunday. I am feeling a little tired, so I think I'm gonna go to bed. But we are gonna go raid Echo, who's reading. Oh, I don't even know what he's reading. I was looking at it earlier, but he is reading something. Some cursed fanfiction right now. Okay. Well, we're going to go and raid his cursed fanfiction.